I think these players are now ready. Odemian versus Superlubo is going to be this control warrior of Odemian versus the priest from Lubo.
Yeah, and he's a very, very big fan of this deck, and rightly so in the group that he's up against. You know, you said that he felt strong against this group, and a big part of that is that he has Control Warrior with all the Whirlwinds, all of the Sleep with the Fishes, all the Brawls, basically maximum removal that you can play in the deck, and his group's filled with aggro.
Yeah.
So, you know, he's put himself in a very, very good position because of that, but he is just kind of a Control Warrior loyalist. I believe he even qualified, like played the Take TV qualifier with Control Warrior prior to the nerf, which, you know, I asked him, was this deck, you know, inspired by the fact that Raza wasn't there anymore? And he said, no, I think it was fine back then as well. You just had to build it a little bit differently.
Yeah, and I think even when I interviewed Glacier about his win, I was like, what was it like playing against the Control Warrior? Because, you know, our matchup was close. He was like, yeah, I think it was fine. But I've not really played against Control Warrior for a long time, so I wasn't 100% sure. Because it's all good and well knowing the cards in the deck, but knowing the interactions, what the deck plays like, what the deck plays against like, and knowing how far the deck, you can push the deck sometimes. Wow. This is also a pretty good turn. Circle of Healing, and there is Divine Spirit and Inner Fire in hand. And yes, we do know quite well that this deck can make like a 20-20 out of nowhere, but also making, you know, a 6-6, a 10-10, that often gets the job done, especially as there's only really Execute at this moment in time for Odemian that could deal with this elemental.
Yeah, if there was a Shadow Visions in hand for Superlubo as well right now, then
could be good.
Then suddenly madness might be about to occur, but this is a huge decision point for Lubo, and honestly one of the most difficult parts of playing this deck at a high level. Like, there are games where you are supposed to just go all in on turn 2, turn 3, turn 4, whatever it is. Identifying when those games are and having, honestly, just having the balls to execute it in a lot of positions is the hardest part of playing the deck.
And what makes this decision even harder is that there is a Execute Activator live.
It's right there.
It 100% will happen next turn if Odemian wants it. We can see, of course, that there isn't an Execute. But is this going to have to be Battle Rage into Execute for Odemian? I don't really see another way out here. Like, you can't even survive next turn. Is yes the word you're looking for?
It is, yeah. I was desperately searching for any other play, but nope, you got me there. That is the line.
And this is the reward for being brave. There could have been Execute, and then you like, I have a Dusk Breaker and a Potion of Madness in hand.
And now this is what you bail out to. This is the play that keeps you alive when you whiff, but there is still just a 12-8 in play that's going to put you to 1 next turn.
One small benefit is Superlubo, outside of another Circle of Healing, cannot heal the elemental to full.
Right.
So if an Execute is drawn off the top, which is what Odemian's hoping for, and he does have shield block as well, 2 goes at Execute or bust. It's going to be a weird pick as well.
That is actually a really weird discover.
Because you could just win next turn.
Yeah.
But what if you don't? That's what you're picking for right now.
Right. In which case you want to just play another big threat next turn. So were we suddenly in a world where you pick Hoarding Dragon just so you maintain pressure?
I think so, because in terms of removal, what do the coins actually... One, the warrior has to remove them. And what do the coins get him to quicker in Control Warrior? It's not really that much,
like,
right?
Yeah, like Garrosh, maybe.
Okay, then you're never gaining armor. Yeah. You know, like, it's really weird. So I think Hoarding Dragon's actually a really strong pick there.
That's not an Execute.
And
that is not an Execute.
GG! It's a very quick game, number 1, but that's one of the strengths and probably one of the main strengths of the deck. Sometimes there's a minion on the board, and then you kill your opponent with it very, very quickly.
Yep.
True?
Yeah, no, you got it. The word I was looking for there also was yes. Yeah.
Okay, well, Superlubo getting off to a pretty good start here as a quick 1-0, but you cannot rely on that. There's plenty more of the series left to play out, and that is just, you know, one game out of maybe potentially the whole tournament that happens, right? So you've gone.
And honestly, it's a big nerve settler to win a game like that as well. I can speak from experience of like the first major I went to, I played terribly for the first game that I was on stream. And then the very next game after that, I had like an early game decision where I was like confident I knew what the right play was, but it looked a bit like cute and weird, and then it paid off, and immediately you're like, okay, perfect. Okay. Like I'm back in the zone, you know. So again, making that big push, it pays out. He gets a quick win. Like, that will definitely put Lubo in the right mindset.
Yeah, moving swiftly on. Odemian's gone for this Shaman, and Superlubo is on the Paladin. Pretty good matchup for Odemian, I would say, here. You do have the removal, you have the Devolve to try and remove any Murlocky madness. And honestly, just kind of stutter the sort of steamrolling pressure that the Paladin wants to create.
Yes. I mean, going way back to when Evolve Shaman was, a top-tier deck in at least the competitive meta, it's never quite been, like, the best deck in the format. Evolve Shaman in particular, obviously, we've seen Aggro Shaman, Mid-Range Shaman being the best deck in the game. But Evolve Shaman was, a fairly top-tier competitive deck at one point. And the reason was that it was the aggro deck that won all the aggro mirrors.
Yes.
Because of Flame Tongue, Jade Claws, Maelstrom Portal, Devolve, all of these options
Similar
that you
to
can use.
Aggro Druid recently.
Yes.
Right?
You can see straight away, like, Righteous Protector comes down, just gets immediately gobbled up by Jade Claws.
Yeah. I feel like the mulligans for Paladin get really weird sometimes. Like, I actually never really want to play Righteous Protector on one. I want it to come off Call to Arms, because then it protects the other minions that you pull. So its value just shoots up, like, so much. Then, yeah, it's a strong 1-mana, 1/1 Divine Shield Taunt, great. But, like, off Call to Arms, it's suddenly 1-mana, defend your other minions, and then probably hit your opponent hard the turn after.
Yeah, I talked about it a lot in, I think it was a series I was casting with Lothar. Like, mulligan decisions with this card are really tough for me because I'm with you. I want to go for my Murloc curve early on because that's the most busted thing you can do with Murloc Paladin. But at the same time, keeping it and playing it earlier then means that you don't draw it later on, so your deck gets denser, but then that's mitigated by the fact that you can pull it off Call to Arms, like you just said. But then also it does have great utility, because even on turn 1, if you have the coin, for example, you can go like Inquisitor, Coin, Protector in an aggro mirror, and then they can't get to your Inquisitor, so then your Rockpool Hunter lands more consistently. Like, there's so many considerations in aggro mirrors in particular. It's just most of them are really heavily condensed into turns 1 and 2.
As is the rope now heavily condensed into turns 1 and 2.
Honestly, I think we ran that one into the ground last series.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I might have been eating at that point.
Fair enough.
But I already know your thoughts. There's no need to repeat. There is the jump into the Hydrologist, or the Hydrologist into a Secret next turn for Lubo. Oh, Rock Pool suddenly makes these options a little bit different. I kind of like the Rock Pool now. Mainly because that Tauntaun's in the way.
Your 2/1's really miserable if you just leave it there without buffing.
That's what I mean. Like, it literally dies to a random token.
Yeah.
Whereas you can buff it, make it a little bit more awkward, and demand some kind of stronger answer from Odemian. But also just because the Taunt Totem is super annoying. It's not like you can weapon one down. He's going to go for it as well.
Oh boy.
Oh. Yep.
Superlubo needs to get a grip on this board very, very soon. And if there is any card that's particularly oily in terms of loosening your grip on the board, it's Flame Tongue Totem, which I know, Raven, is your favorite card in all of Hearthstone.
How was that not in the nerfs? That's my question, along with Corridor.
No one's playing Shaman. They just nerf Flame Tongue Totem.
They nerfed Hex when no one's playing Shaman.
It's just Hex all over again.
Make it 4 mana.
Yeah.
But you're quite right, seriously. Very, very strong card. And even to the extent that it's not like Odemian's trying to rush out this Doppelgangster into Thrall. He's actually just saying, well, the weapon, combined with Flame Tongue and the tokens I already have on board, what does Superlubo do next turn? I get another turn to actually go even wider, potentially play the thing from below. And then what does he do? You know, what's the strong answer here?
I mean,
it doesn't really exist.
Yeah, I mean, look at how well he's set up for Call to Arms this turn.
Exactly.
Right? Like, unless juggler nonsense happens of Call to Arms, then, you're going to have a, 3-1, a 3-2, and your weapon to contest Call to Arms.
And that's why I really like the weapon play, even though it overloads you for next turn on curve Doppelgangster.
Right.
So what? You get to turn 6 very easily with this hand.
Yep.
And that's without what he could draw. At worst, he hero powers. At best, he could go Maelstrom, a Primal Fin, just something to just drop down. And this is what you want the Argent Protector for.
Ouch.
This is still pretty okay. Can take out everything but the Vial Fin. Drop a totem as well, potentially a taunt. Or a heal totem would actually be fine. Yeah, taunt, okay.
Valley trades, takes the juggler, just it's far too dangerous. And then there is a 5-5 in the future here. But Odemian's considering, you know, maybe it's worth holding on to. You can just immediately spike it with Thrall. You're essentially like putting a bigger taunt minion in the way of, you know, Blessing of Kings, potentially, if you like play this out. Otherwise, like Blessing of Kings is completely isolated against a taunt totem if you don't play it. But then you very quickly scrap all that nonsense and just go, yeah, it's a 5-5. I play it this turn.
Yeah, I also like that plan. I wondered for a small second there as to whether there's any thought of putting the thing from below next to the Flame Tongue, just for a quick second. So in case of Blessing of Kings, for example, you don't get the value trade from thing from below. But I think overall it works out almost the same. Anyway, because you still have the Taunt Tome to trade regardless.
Right.
There's also a small chance that Odemian actually goes for Thrall next turn, depending on how the board looks. Especially if you drew an Evolve, then you definitely do. Or you go the other way and then go Doppelgangster first.
I think there is a
reasonable for our board.
More than small chance of that happening, honestly.
Because however much the Doppelgangster feels safe to put behind this taunt, why not be even safer? And then you can actually play Doppelgangster hero power with Thrall the turn after on one of them. And that often might be enough.
Yeah, suddenly the fact that these minions have become very awkward to remove with the Divine Shields and the fact that there's another weapon in play that can kill a 2-2, suddenly just, you know, jamming Doppelgangster, which is quite often a very good play in this matchup because if you have board control, what's the punish? The answer, there isn't one.
Random Consecrate.
Right, but, you know, the answer just isn't there this time around. So, yeah, the Devolve play just lines up too nicely with the Divine Shields on this occasion. And he's just going to load up the board as much as he possibly can.
Why not? Like you said, Paladin has no real gain from getting back on this kind of wide board that Shaman specializes in.
Yep.
Even another call to arms, like, so what? You know, like, doesn't really matter at this point.
Dilemma as old as time. You are about to see 7 damage go into a 1-1, and that is one of the like quintessential debates of Hearthstone, right? Like, which is safer? I kill the minion, my opponent has less outs in terms of Sunky Patarium and whatever else that's going to come out in that position. If I go face, I set up lethal against my opponent, which means my opponent has less outs because they have less time to draw those outs. So, you know, which side of that coin you come down on differs, honestly, from player to player and sometimes from day to day.
Yeah, and from turn to turn.
Yeah, of course, yeah, context to context.
Yes,
yeah.
Because you look at this, there is, like, so much more limited stuff that can even happen because there's such a big difference between 1 minion and 0 minions, right?
Yep.
Especially with this deck, like, what is there to actually do? And look, there's just 2 more minions on the board. Great. And Odemian has a pretty easy test here for Get Down. A noble sacrifice for its real name, but Get Down. As he can just throw the 2-2 away. Depending on how he wants to trade, actually. Because if he's thinking about Thrall, then he probably wants to trade the 1-drop as opposed to the 2-drop.
Yeah. You see him just getting max value out of his thing from below there, which suggests he is sometimes looking at a evolve turn here.
Yeah, and this trade makes sense too. Now, does he... Again, he traded the 1-1 away. Is he going to put the 2-2 into the 2-1 to completely clear the board and say, I'm okay with a 3-drop and a 7-drop? I think that would be pretty reasonable as well.
I mean, follow-up question. You can also just go the Doppelgangster route instead, right?
That's also true.
Yeah.
Oh, I mean, The hero power stung Odemian in a previous series. Is it going to sting him again with a Doomsayer?
Well, it's double evolve. It's Thrall.
Oh, of course.
Yeah.
Good save. Okay.
Also, that Doomsayer was kind of fine in the other series as well. It wasn't actually that bad for him because he was kind of behind on board anyway.
Sure.
Yeah.
It's just the fact.
But it sure was exciting.
Well, it was the fact that like Ragnaros plus 5/5
Yeah,
actually a pretty
Yeah.
Oh, fly, that's pretty
Right.
sick. But yeah, it's going to be a game apiece as Odemian evens it up, but not quite as quick as the previous game, but still pretty. He was in control for all of that.
He was, yeah. I mean, as soon as the minion into Jade Claw's opening came out, then it was a slippery slope from that position, and that is classically how Shaman functions against other aggro decks. You know, we didn't even really see like some of the gross things like spell power, Maelstrom Portal that can come out in those matchups as well. Like you have so much spare gas. Like it's hard to name a combination of Evolve Shaman cards that doesn't combat aggressive starts from your opponent.
Yeah, I mean, let's look at it, right? You had Doppelgangster and Thrall early on.
Yeah.
And he still beat Murloc Paladin.
Right.
Like, and they're two dead cards for so many early turns, which, as you mentioned, are the most impactful turns of the game. And we saw that happen just the other way round. It's going to be Paladin again for Superlubo. It's 1-1, and Odemian on his Priest. It's nutty how many Priest decks there are. I mean, how many decks of everything there are in general at the moment? There's like Control Paladin, Exodi Paladin, Murloc Paladin, for example.
Yep.
But the Priest
Even
deck,
then, like Control Paladin with and without N'Zoth.
yeah, it's just
With and without the Call to Arms, like Dirty Rat package
with
as
and
well.
without Dragon Slayer.
Yeah.
the huge.
Yeah.
Now, this is not a matchup I don't think you can afford to hold a heavy card and not feel the punish. So one Mind Control being in hand is going to hurt Odemian a fair bit here. But the rest of his hand looks pretty good. It's amazing what Call to Arms has done for Paladin.
This is all looking oddly familiar again, Raven. The to coin Rallying Blade or not to coin Rallying Blade was the big talking point of the last series we cast, because essentially it was 2-0 up with Murloc Paladin being the last deck that needed to win, and then there was a Murloc Paladin mirror in that, and then obviously two other Murloc Paladin games that were played out. And the decision as to whether or not you coin Rallying Blade or not really came up in like a lot of different games. And it's, you know, it is, although it's a 3-mana Fiery War Axe, when you're up against other decks that want to land a minion on the board and then leverage that, you know, whether that be with Rockpool Hunter, whether that be with Cabal Talon Priest, whatever it is, you know, giving up an early Call to Arms for a Rallying Blade is very often worth it, particularly, as Lothar was pointing out, in this matchup, because if you coin Call to Arms in this matchup, you walk into the Dustbreaker turn.
Yes. Also, as well, the awkwardness of if Cleric comes down.
Yep.
And, like, bump heal is just a problem. Even one extra card is one card deeper there into the deck.
You are the Shadow's puppet. You are the Shadow's puppet.
No, the high five buffs. Oh, it's nowhere near as good.
It's not as cool as the Scalebane High Five.
Sick.
Yeah.
I feel like Hearthstone's at the point, at the moment at least, where there are... It feels like the most impactful, specific turns in the game than there has ever been.
Sure.
So I'll explain that in terms of turn 4, Call to Arms versus Dustbreaker.
Yep.
Very similar to a Bone Mare that was turn 7. You know, like... can I
Versus
clear
Shadow
the
Reaper
board?
and
Yeah. And there's so many turns like this where it's like, who's going to blink? And then normally whoever loses that is in such a rough position in a game that it's very hard to come back from. And
we
it's
saw that,
so
right? Was
hard.
It,
Like,
yeah.
what do you even do?
Was it Orange versus Boston where they danced around Dustbreaker
Oh,
for
yeah.
5 turns, and then eventually he just had to give it up and was like emoted the well played as he did it. It's like, yeah, all right, you got me. I have to play into Dustbreaker now.
Speaking of which, hello, Mr. Dustbreaker. Not this needed this turn, but yeah, it's how do you even make that call? I like to think I know a little bit about Hearthstone, and I still don't really know how those calls are made. You know, on a game by game basis for these pro players.
Right.
It's nuts. think with the weapon equipped, Finger seems reasonable here.
Yep, I like it.
Because with Finger, you're always looking for, can I do the extra that might be needed? Tarim is a great follow-up for Finger.
Yeah.
The weapon.
Kings, Wally.
Yeah, just save Spike Ridge Steed in the day, you know.
Back in the day.
Back in the day. I've been playing that OTK Paladin. When you run 2 Spike Ridge and those 2 mana Devantia draw a card, then this will become sick. That card's good. I miss Spike Ridge Steed. Oh my god, okay.
Oh, that's just all of the Duskbreakers.
Maybe not yet. Still another spot in the list, in the deck.
That's fair. Yeah, I like this line from Lubo though because he hasn't really checked for Duskbreaker yet. Like that was an okay Duskbreaker turn. It wasn't anywhere near as high value as Duskbreaker could be later on. So Odemian was very entitled and in fact did hold a Duskbreaker that turn. So if he'd have just jammed Call to Arms again on that board, then suddenly he could have been in a world of trouble. So Finger just did seem to make a ton more sense.
And I think,
What is
and this is the mark of just strong players, but I think I've seen the greediest Duskbreakers I've ever seen so far in this tournament, even just today. Because let's say your average ladder game, Duskbreaker. You know, you just play it.
It's turn 4.
Yeah.
I will play my 3/3 man that
being
kills your
serious.
board.
I'm being
I
serious.
mean, that's how a lot of people play ladder,
Yeah,
honestly.
but when you take it to more levels, you think like, what if I hit 1 additional minion with Duskbreaker? Like,
Right.
these smallest things make the biggest impact. And there is a call to arms. But now, do you not attack with the Finger? If you attack with Finger, you get blown out. You just lose, I think, at this point. More tough choices. He can kill off one of the minions easily. He can even roll hero power to see if it hits the operative and trade the weapon in. And just pass. If Duskbreaker comes down, fine. It does so much damage to the Bookworm that you follow up with the hit into the Bookworm. Or the Duskbreaker. Let's go for it. Oh my.
Oh, God. Oh, God.
Oh. I can't even look.
Won't someone think of the children?
Will someone think of the Murlocs? Yeah, okay, you keep your 1/1.
Is this a good Duskbreaker? I can't tell.
Maybe. Maybe. Whoa, 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 whoa.
Hello? What?
I think I would have acolyted the Finger for 7 attack. A 7/1. How many big minions are you fighting in this deck? You put a 7/1 on the board, if the 1/1 swings into it, okay. I'm fine with it.
But what? There's a 1/1 Raven.
Right? Then your other 2 minions are safe.
I'm turning over a new leaf for 2018 where I'm supposed to be nice to you. But when you say stuff like that, you make life difficult, you know?
Well, whatever. I don't think I ever make life difficult for you, so if anything, I make it easy.
Yeah.
You built a career on putting me down. How easy do I make it for you?
That's so true.
Thank you. Thank you.
What is illusion?
You literally earn a living doing this. Now can you get the acolyte out? There's a point in one of the series you cast earlier as well. I can't remember what series it was because they all sort of blend into one to a certain extent.
Sure.
But there was a Glimmerroot pick for a Divine Favor,
Mm-hmm.
and it was taken.
Mm-hmm.
And the priest already had a lot of cards. So I think there was an argument, because we talked about it downstairs, to mispick on purpose to play around you.
To play around the
Divine
Divine.
Favor.
Sure, that's a good
it
point.
was
Yeah, we
just,
didn't really talk about
yeah,
it.
it was just.
I think it was like
Divine
first,
Favor just reminded.
I think it was first series of the day because like Lothar made like the classic thinking it was operative mistake, so we just kind of focused on making fun of Lothar and didn't really
Reasonable.
talk about that.
I'm
but
okay with anything that isn't making fun of me.
Yeah, it's a good point.
This is good though. This is one of the things that can really help Superlubo out. The Divine Favor allows you to win games that you shouldn't win at this any given point. One of the better hammers as well. That
Oh,
one.
did you see it, by the way, when it was like 4 taunts in a row off?
No.
Oh, yeah, it really was. I was saying that Raven doesn't believe me that it's always taunt. Except when it isn't.
Oh, of course. Of
Yeah.
course. The only thing worse than that is the banhammer.
That's true.
Wow. Speaking of Divine Favor getting you out of rough situations, Divine Shield plus 2 Megasaurs.
Yep.
If one Murloc lives, that's pretty good value. Never mind anymore.
Yep. And again, Divine Shields against Priest, like almost regardless of type, are just disgusting. Like you live in the world where it's Shadow Word Horror or Bust then most of the time.
Yeah. Or like too many cards.
Yeah.
Pyromancer, Powered
Right,
Shield.
yeah.
You know what I mean?
Like Mass Dispel into Duskbreaker.
Yeah,
Or some
yeah.
like silly combination like that, yeah.
Well, you know, Song Stealer into Dustbreaker is kind of like that.
It is a little bit like that. Yeah.
Wait, is that actually worth? Probably not. On the 2/4.
Right.
Then you wipe the board,
You
right?
trade through one of the Divine Shields with the 2/1. You can pick up a value trade still with the 5/6. It's okay.
Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying it's great, but
Yeah.
you know, it clears the board, which is very important when you're playing against Murlocs.
Yeah. It's a better play than it looks like before you think about it. When you actually break down what happens, then yeah, it's not the worst thing in the world.
Good job, Sol.
What?
New Year's resolutions getting there. When you really think hard about it, your suggestion was not completely terrible.
It's like the admirable line. It's like, yeah, it's a good idea if you don't really think about it.
Yeah. Followed by got 'em.
And just pointing at a random person. Yeah.
It's Divine
Classic.
Shield again. I always feel like Stealth's trying to trip you up with this card. Because all the others almost all benefit from attacking last.
Yeah.
And Stealth's like, nope, should have attacked. The poison with still 2 minions with Divine Shield, if you made my play.
See, now, that time, you have poison on your minions, right? So at that point, do you need... You don't, like, Wind Fury doesn't matter because you can attack again afterwards. Do you need plus attack on your minions? Like, at that point, you can trade the Divine Shields, then play second Megasaur, and then retake Divine Shield to re-Divine Shield your poison minions.
Or Stealth.
Or Stealth, exactly. So I'm on that subject we were just talking about. I think it may have been a little bit better to, after taking the Poisonous, attack the 2 Divine Shield minions first, and then play the second Megasaur.
Yeah, I do think he just wants to kill him, though.
Yeah, no, I can see it.
But yeah, that's what... It gets actually trickier than you imagine.
Mm-hmm.
Everyone, Stealth is bad. Well, actually, you know, Stealth can be very, very powerful. Maybe not so much against a Dustbreaker, but in general.
Right.
Just think back to Conceal. That's how powerful Stealth is.
Because, yeah, obviously holding the attack there gave him the option to be really aggressive and go face because he got +3 attack. But then,
Got
of course,
anything else?
there's a world where you don't get +3 attack and you do get Divine Shield. The world we live in is the world where he got both. So it was kind of like a weird halfway decision. But then, obviously, Wind Fury as well comes into the equation. So it's a really, really close decision there, I think. But Odemian is going to need something, would have needed something like Netherspite, Duskbreaker. To counteract this whole board. The first Duskbreaker, don't get me wrong, it does some serious work. But it does mean there is a 5/1 hanging around, and the Twilight Acolyte tidies that up very nicely indeed.
I suppose this is better than the 7/1.
It's probably a little bit better than trading a 7/1 with a 1/1, yeah.
Oh, this is a draw 3, though. That's pretty good.
How many cards does he even have left? Because that was a huge first Divine Favor.
3.
There you go.
Good.
Got him.
I mean, you may as well have him now, right?
You're right for that. I don't know if the creaking
couch.
noises are coming through the microphone. Yeah.
I think they are.
Yeah.
Sorry. I'm just moving around. This couch has seen things.
It has.
This couch has been here for a very long time.
It's got some war stories.
You can actually see the old couch there.
Is that the old couch? I think this one's before my time. I think I've always had.
Oh, yeah,
this
that's
couch.
like Home Story Code.
Okay.
But yeah, StarCraft couch.
If you're gonna do it, you only draw 2, right? because you then draw the next card the turn after anyway, and you don't you save yourself 1 damage from fatigue.
I'm almost out of cards.
Ooh, that's a good one. I was wondering whether you go for a... You potentially would have looked for an eye with that secret. And be like, hey, hit me in the face once, I dare you. Divine Shield again doing work, though. What is this, like Divine Shield set number 4?
And I think you saw Odemian's reaction to that as well when the Divine Shield came down.
Does he mind control one?
What?
Well, the game is solved at this point if Odemian's been tracking correctly. He knows that he has to beat 2 cards and a random secret. And he should, if he's been paying more attention than us, know what that last card is. Because I don't.
Pounding card.
No, good call.
Well, it might not be. Could be neutral.
What is in whose will?
Oh, wait. Well, okay, what he will know is it's not Tyron. Sorry, there's Tyron left. Apologies.
Yes.
Because you definitely know if that's
Right.
played.
Yeah, of course.
So then, the mind control on the Tyron is probably the idea. Oh, this could be huge. Lich King go. Oh, I mean,
There you go.
may as well have been.
He just glanced over us. As if to say, 412, nice.
This is nuts, though. This forces a Tyrium. And then there's the mind
Control for a
Tyrium.
3/7 taunt, which pretty much just ends the game. Yeah.
Wow. He can't not play Tyrium. And he doesn't even have like a 2-drop to make 2 minions with hero power. So he'd have to play the Murloc and Tyrium. Or, sorry, Tyrium then the Murloc.
Right.
You lose 1 attack
Actually-
on the Murloc, but you gain health on the Murloc on the others.
So wait, what does happen exactly? Like he trades through, and then he has 6 damage remaining in play after his Tyrium gets mind controlled. No, he has 9 damage
No.
in play after his Tyrium gets.
No, because he plays that last.
Right. Yeah.
So he has 8.
Yeah, he's
But the problem is, excuse me, the Archivist needs to be traded, so there's no face damage going down.
That's my question, right? Because there's still another Free from Amber left,
Yes.
right? So it doesn't necessarily roll mind control, and Free from Amber can whiff.
Yeah.
And then suddenly are you in a position where maybe you can squeeze through lethal? The answer to that is no. So
Yeah.
yes, the Grand Archivist does have to be dealt with in that position, but you get yourself into a pretty grim losing spot.
So it's 3 damage to push, but it's just not enough because the Tyrium kit like kills one of the Murlocs.
Yeah.
And you take 3 damage if you want to make like the clean trade. Wait, can he do this?
If he...
No, trades everything,
Mm-hmm.
and then it's down to. I mean, he's taking fatigue damage, but he has what, like 3 turns, 4 turns,
Right.
so it gets really dangerous. It's the health on the Murlocs that change everything. Actually, he has to take 3 though. There's no Dust Breakers left. There's 1 Nether Spike. But with heal and playing Operative and a Talon Priest, can he just do the damage with fatigue regardless? He takes 2 fatigue, goes to 8 next turn. Do you know the Operative first?
Why?
Just see what he gets. Why not?
Sick. Yeah, we've seen what he gets. There's no cards
yeah.
left in the deck, Raven.
I was thinking it's like.
I'm trying really hard. I'm about to have an aneurysm.
I mean, look, just you got to remember that sequencing, right?
Sure.
What if there were cards in
Sure.
I knew it. Don't exaggerate.
Yeah, I mean, the big point there is that like Odemian just had too much power in his hand to develop. So yes, he wasn't. Yes, he was in a position with Superlubo where he had minions still in play. But Odemian could develop so much power that Superlubo then had to trade the next turn because there was
then you
lethal
never
represented. The second you trade again, and at that point it's not a value trade, the game's over. So that was locked up.
Sleepy Dragon's a good card.
Sleepy Dragon is a good card. There's always, every now and again, there's like that budget late game card. Like when you don't have whatever like big legendary you need for your deck. Like we had Nordsea Kraken for a while, which was just like a great cheap card. Sleepy Dragon, very similar kind of thing. Like it's not going to see too much competitive play as an actual card that you hardcast in your deck. But, you know, for budget players who just need like a strong late game minion, Sleepy Dragon does the job.
And from what I know of cards like that, they're always good in Arena.
Yeah.
This is a pretty hefty Murloc opening. Superlubo just missing out on the 1-drop, which would have really made this opening insane. But Odemian has a deck that specializes in killing little minions.
Yes. And now, if you are Superlubo, that smells a lot like a coin blood razor to me.
Even a Ghoul is the same kind of issue, right?
Yeah.
You play War Leader, for example, for a push. Ghoul gets played and then trades into the War Leader after, so it doesn't really matter. The Ghoul, even the Ghoul being played negates the Rock Pool buff as well, because it does the 1 damage anyway. Also, what do you ever trade Findra into in this matchup?
It's a great question.
Like, can you please play a minion?
Yeah, exactly. The answer is nothing unless Odemian actually wants you to. Because he is
and
in
then you know
full
he's got
control.
Brawl.
Yeah,
And
exactly.
you're like, oh no.
Right.
This Cold Light's doing work though. Well, he's starting to stack some damage. But we've seen the kind of armor gain this deck can get. And it's Dry Whisker is like not oppressive. So don't get me wrong when I compare it to this card. But it's kind of like Spreading Plague in the fact that it punishes decks for going
get that
wide,
comparison, yeah.
but a lot of decks cannot not go wide.
Yep.
How's the Murloc piling go, oh, I'm going to play 2 million
Well, I mean,
on board? You can't not, right?
Even if you do spend your whole game playing around it, imagine if Druid could play Cornered Sentry and then just put 3 1/1s on your board anyway.
That's true.
That's what Warrior can do.
Yeah. So, like, it's one of those cards that you just have to cross your fingers and hope, basically, that you chew fast for. But it's really, really tough. And we've seen, you know, from the Hunter game where you got 6 armor on turn 2, as well as a 2/2, to the 12 armor gain, I think, from that big turn along with the Brawl was insane. It's so much armor.
Yep.
If only he could make that Cold Light CS stealth as well.
Yeah. Seriously.
This is where you need a Hungry Dragon. Oh, what's the 1-drop? Mole Rider Man or something.
Mole Rider Man.
I'm sure the 1-drops is a knight riding a mole that gives you opponents. Oh, is that 2-drop?
Oh,
Well, it gives you a
yeah.
minion.
Right, I thought you were just talking about Dire Mole. I was like,
No, it's not a mole riding a
I
mole.
had no idea what you were talking about.
Some things never change.
The thing you play in the weird Noggin Fogger OTK deck to give
Yeah.
your opponent a minion, so that
Bladed Gauntlet.
you can miss it with Bladed Gauntlet. Shouts to Throwdown. That was a fun deck.
That was funny. I don't think we ever got it to work, did we?
No.
But it was fun trying, and that's all that really matters. This is going to be a setup for the Megasaur. Again, the Cold Light Seer doing so much work, just not letting most of this board get wiped.
I mean, serious question, Raven. How much is 2 damage worth right now against the deck that really just doesn't ever play minions?
Not much this turn.
Move quickly.
You're playing Megasaur next turn, right?
Yeah.
So why not wait one more turn? Try and go for War Leader, Megasaur, Wind Fury, go.
Sure.
Or plus attack, you know, whatever works. But yes, in the long term, I would say, like, as I mentioned very early on, what does Finja actually kill in this deck? The brave Silverhand Murloc. This must be horrible to play against, because you know that's not like the only brawler, the only removal he plays.
Yeah.
It's like, I'll play stuff again, well, he's already got a Whirlwind in hand. Or, like, equipped, should I say.
And the problem is that Odemian has been able to farm draws as well. Like, he played a slam. He got a triple draw Acolyte, I believe. Like, you can see just from the hand size, like, Superlubo knows that the options are going to be there. Just on average, there is removal and armor gain in his opponent's hand right now.
And the issue is, you could be like, well, Divine Favor is going to be great. If you go toe-to-toe, card for card with Warrior, the Warrior wins.
Yeah. You can definitely see the level of comfort here from Odemian as well. Like, these are turns that have multiple different lines available to them, and it barely looks like he's stopping to think. He just sees it straight away.
Also, very comfortable at low health as well. I don't think there's many games he's even played where he's 40, 50 health as Control Warrior. It doesn't really look like the style nowadays.
Yeah. Draws last on that turn because he wants to stack the armor, obviously, after he attacks with the weapon, so that he still has maximum shield slam value on the coming turns. And there is that Dry Whisker now.
Haha. Even stuff like Harrison. 6 damage out of nope.
Yeah.
And it's not like he can overdraw himself into fatigue late game. Although, in the last series we cast, he burnt Dead Man's Hand because he misplayed, which was really funny. It's like, well, your late game's out the window now. That one card you really don't want to burn. But he did Elise into Elise, which normally helps.
That'll do it.
I think this will do it as well. This has to be Divine Favor or Call to Arms.
Such an absurd weapon when you just stop and think about it for a second.
You can't play around it.
You really can't.
There's no positioning unless your board's incredibly full and then Brawl exists.
Yeah.
That helps you in any way. You just can't play a lower type minion.
You put one small minion in the way, and like if it's got 1 health, well, he has a hero power that whirlwinds it out of the way anyway. If it's got 2 health, well, he has Whirlwind or Ravaging Ghoul in his hand, which then with the hero power gets it out of the way. Like it's so dumb.
But fair. Like me. There's the Dead Man's Hand. Not burnt this time. Oh, Call to Arms, though. There is still something there. Garrosh hero power. And Divine Shield Maul.
Divine Shield Maul.
May as well be torn at this point.
Yep. Ouch. This is not the game you want to be playing when you have no cards and your opponent's at 14. You don't want to have to be respecting their minions.
Nope. And then don't even talk about the hand difference.
It's
my opponent can play the game, and I cannot. This does not seem fair.
Cornered Sentry.
Haha. Thanks for full health.
Dry Whisker Armorer. Laugh vigorously at opponent. Apply Salt where necessary.
Maybe tenderize a little bit with the weapon. And there you've got a good cooked Murloc. Well played comes out from Superlubo, and it's going to be Odemian who is going to be moving on. Smile on his face. Seems like a pretty happy guy overall. I think he just likes playing Arster.
It does seem that way, I get that impression.
Generally enjoys it, but you see the sigh of relief there. He is getting through. Unfortunately, I have to say goodbye to Superlubo, but I do have to say, in all of the games from Odemian, his lineup seems like oddly good. And I don't mean that as a jib to him. I mean, we are not used to seeing Control Warrior and Evolved Shaman recently in the meta.
Yeah.
And it seems to be doing very well. This Warrior is kind of like laughed at most of the other decks it's played against.
Right. Yeah,
Because everyone's brought aggro, to be fair.
Right, I am curious to see it like come down against some of the more greedy decks. Like, I really want to see how those play out. Like, obviously, Dead Man's Hand is a very big deal to make that kind of stuff favorable for the Warrior. But so far, I've mostly seen it just beating up on aggro decks, which, sure, it's going to do. But, we'll see when it comes, punch to punch with some other huge decks with huge threats in them, whether it can stand up to that. But someone who has stood up to all the threats so far is Odemian. You've made it out of groups. Congratulations. Obviously, that's goal number 1. Like, when you come to a tournament like this, is your goal get out of groups, make top 8, or is it win the whole thing?
No, I mean, definitely getting out of the group is like I think it's like the most important because you feel like it's a complete failure if you don't do it right. Now everything is basically now. I mean, of course, you're disappointed if you go out at any stage of the tournament, obviously. But now, I mean, it just feels better to every step of the way further, right?
Yeah, and looking at throughout that series, it seemed pretty comfortable for you. Were you comfortable playing that series? It seemed like everything kind of went pretty well for you.
Yeah, it went pretty well. I got actually kind of scared at the end of the priest against his paladin game, because of the double divine shield hammer actually put me in quite a bit of trouble, but managed to pull through, and that taunt on the end just on that 412 really.
And then like mind control for the Tarian was nuts.
That really put work in. Yeah, but yeah, overall I feel like he didn't get to play his phase druid, and that's actually the deck my lineup was most favored against for every deck. So.
Okay. So you're feeling pretty good.
Yeah, it was still feeling pretty good.
And we definitely saw the fear come out when the second Divine Shield landed. You said, "Oh, again, Divine Shield again."
You mentioned earlier in your other interview with me, at least, you said you feel very confident in your group, but not so confident about everyone else. Knowing now who's getting through, and we'll check that out in a minute exactly. But how are you feeling about the rest of your tournament? Are there any opponents you specifically don't want to run into?
It's a bit weird because I have there's a couple opponents that have a crushing advantage against me, and there's a couple opponents that I have a crushing advantage against. Okay. So I don't know if it boils down to this, I'll just take it as it comes and hope to get as far as I can.
and is that how you build lineups for tournaments in general, to just beat one strategy, to beat one thing, and you obviously have the read that's going to be the predominant strategy, but do you never really try and edge your bets or anything like that, and you just kind of go all in on just beating one style?
I think it's actually a fairly good strategy to just put a bet that 80% of the people are going to bring that and just counter that. That's a way to do things. That's the way I like to do it at any rate, if at all possible. But I think I was slightly off for this tournament, not very far off, but maybe slightly off on what people would bring, and that might in the end cost me the long run victory. But I'm still okay, against most people.
And you can be forgiven for being slightly off since a patch hit 2 days ago.
Right.
I think that's reasonable to be slightly off.
Yeah, I think I'm still pretty happy about what I brought, and just in general, it's decks that I feel good playing, and I just enjoy the tournament in general. So
yeah, it's definitely been fun watching you play, to be honest, just because you bring in a deck like Control Warrior, which I've personally not cast since HGG, maybe?
Possibly. Yeah, actually, I do want to ask you a little bit more about the Warrior, though, because you said before, I think you qualified, it was in your lineup when you qualified for this tournament, and you said that you're a big fan of the deck. Have you played it all the way back to Justicar days? Have you always been a fan of Control Warrior?
Yeah, I have I'm speaking under control of Blizzard, but I have between 6,000 and 7,000 games of Control Warrior. So, nice. I'm pretty far from Fibonacci, but I'm still quite an aficionado of the deck, right?
Yeah. That's still a lot of hours. If you change it from games to hours of time.
Yeah, it's about 6,000 or 7,000 hours.
Yeah,
right?
there you go.
It's pretty crazy because the deck is actually every game with the deck on average is probably 3 times longer than the average Hearthstone game, right?
Yeah, it's kind of nuts. But no, congratulations again. You make it through your group, and I'll let you go and get some rest for tomorrow.
Yeah,
so
definitely.
go and get some rest. Looking forward to it.